The Catcher in the Rye remains J.D. Salinger's most popular work. The book was intended for adults but gained acclaim among adolescents and was banned from some schools as well. It has also been found in the possession of quite a few serial killers who identify with our protagonist, Holden Caulfield. Holden is 16 years old and writes from some sort of mental institution or sanatorium, narrating about the few days between the end of the fall school term and Christmas. Holden has failed 4 out of 5 classes at Pensy, his fourth school. He has already failed out of 3 others. He is served a notice of expulsion on Saturday but is not scheduled to reach home to Manhattan until Wednesday. Holden visits his history teacher, Mr. Spencer, to say goodbye but gets annoyed by Spencer's reprimanding him for his poor academic performance. Holden goes to his dorm and his roommate asks him about an essay Holden was supposed to write for him. Holden writes an essay about a baseball glove and his dead younger brother who died of leukemia, who owned the baseball club. His roommate is not impressed by this. His roommate is about to go on a date with Jane, the girl Holden has feelings for. After the date, Holden and his roommate get into a fight over it, leaving Holden pinned to the ground with a bloodied nose. Holden leaves, deciding he had enough of Pensy. Holden has also lost the fencing equipment and faces ridicule for it in school. Throughout the novel, Holden is disillusioned by phonies, adults of the world, and is exhausted. He returns to New York but cannot go home because his parents don't know yet that he has been expelled. So he rents out a room at the Edmond Hotel and seeking human interaction, he goes to the hotel's nightclub, the Lavender Room, but leaves after seeing his brother's ex girlfriend there. The next morning, he calls his ex girlfriend Sally Hayes and they spend the day together until Holden makes rude remarks and Sally leaves crying. He then meets up with a former classmate, Carl Lewis, who gets annoyed with Holden and leaves early. Holden gets drunk, goes to the Central Park until the cold drives him home. He sneaks in, encountering his sister Phoebe, and describes to her his fantasy of being the catcher in the rye from a song he heard. Phoebe corrects him, saying, it is if a body meets a body coming through the rye, not a catcher in the rye, and says that the correct lyrics are from a poem by Robert Burns. So Holden has misinterpreted it. Holden sneaks out upon hearing his parents return. He calls his English teacher Mr. Antolini, who allows him to sleep on his couch. But Holden freaks out when he wakes up to his English teacher stroking his forehead. Holden leaves for the Grand Central Station where he spends the rest of the night. The next morning, Holden goes to Phoebe's school and leaves a note for her detailing his plans of running away and asks her to meet him at the museum. He tries to clear out profane graffiti on a wall in a way to take his role of being the catcher in the rye, meaning he wants to protect innocence of children. Phoebe arrives with a packed bag to the museum, insisting on going with him. He says no and instead takes her to the zoo and watches her ride the carousel in the rain. Here the flashback ends. The novel returns to the institution where Holden's brother, who is a writer for Hollywood, is to visit him. And Holden cautions against one telling one story fully. Holden frequently asks what happens to the ducks in the Central Park lagoon when the lake freezes over. This is interpreted as his need to survive his own emotional winters after every authority failed and betrayed him. Knowing where the ducks go will give him comfort that the bad times are not permanent. Holden wears a red hat representing his alienation and intentional isolation. It is a hunting hat showing his uniqueness and unwillingness to blend in. J.D. Salinger said in an interview that the character Holden Caulfield was semi autobiographical. Holden explains that he likes museums and they are important to him because they are reliable and unchanging. This shows Holden's discomfort with change and how he tries to avoid unpredictability. And when confronted with change, it becomes a crisis. He is a sort of anti hero.